This week's book review is honestly one of the best lesbian historical fiction I've ever read. In fact, it might be the only lesbian historical fiction I've ever read. And I like to say that I don't like historical fiction because I don't get to see myself in it ever. It's so hard for me to sit and read about a world that completely eliminates queer stories and people of color. My community and my world is not represented in most historical fiction, so I don't like to read it. But I loved reading Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. Sarah Waters is known for her historical fiction featuring lesbian characters, and I've tried to read some of them in the past, and I couldn't really get into it, but this time I got one on audiobook, and whoa, so good. First off, the author, the narrator, is so good, and I highly suggest getting Sarah Waters books on audiobook because now I'm obsessed and I've listened to all of them on audiobook. But this one in particular, I feel like there was just like some swagger to the voice and that I needed because the character had swagger. Tipping the Velvet features two women working in vaudeville that become romantically entangled and then break up. And one of them goes off and marries a man, and the other goes off and explores queer London. Queer London in the 1890s, folks. That's so exciting. I think that it's so often sad how stories that aren't about white straight people get just completely ignored in our society. So it felt really validating and beautiful for me to be reminded that people like me have existed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and there were ways in which we worked and made ourselves a space in society and made room for love. And that's what this book is about. It's about finding and making room for love no matter what happens in your life. And that is a perfect book to be incorporated into our February books about love. And especially, you might have noticed a theme here, I'm only choosing books that also have queer love in them because selfishly, I want to read more books about queer love for myself because I am queer. I want to see lesbians in my queer romance stories. So this is a beautiful, beautiful book about what it was like to carve out space in your life for love when it was illegal, when it was looked down upon, and when it could cost you everything, but it was still completely worth it. I hope that you enjoy Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters as much as I did. And a reminder to buy it through an independent bookstore. If you want to listen to it in audiobook like I did, you can get it through Libro.fm using the link in our show notes. Not only does that let you support an independent bookstore by using that link, but also you can support the School for Writers podcast. We get free audiobooks when you use that link, so I can review more books for you. Sounds pretty great, right? So go support independent bookstores, listen to Tipping the Velvet on audiobook, go to the Libro.fm link to support your local independent bookstore, this podcast, and to get your own copy of this beautiful book, Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters.